reading out of Jeremiah, and starting in chapter 17, starting in verse 7. Whenever you get there, can you say amen? Oh, that's fast. But starting in verse 7, it says, "Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh, but her leaves shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit." Thank you. You can be seated. If I can put a title on my message tonight, I would have to title it "Without Question." But now I'm going to go to Genesis 12 and 1. It says, "Now the Lord has said to Abraham, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house unto the land that I will shew thee." Going down to 4, and it says, "So Abraham departed." He simply departed without questioning what God was calling him to do. "So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him, and Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran." Now, I don't know what it feels like to be 75 years old, but I know some of you older folks, I'm sure it's pretty hard to imagine just leave everything that you've accomplished and just leave it behind you. Because you got to understand, that's what God was telling Abraham. He was telling him to not only leave his family, but leave all his belongings and leave his entire life that he has worked for and he has tried to establish, to just simply pick up and leave it. But whenever you go to chapter 13 and verse 14, it says, and God speaking to Abraham, saying, "Lift up now thine eyes and look from the place where thou art northward, southward, eastward, and westward." But then skipping down to 17, and he says, "Arise and walk through the land in the length of it." See, Abraham had a level of faith that does not question who his God is. He had a level of trust in the Lord that with each step he was saying, I have my hope in you, God. I trust in you. With each step he was saying, he was declaring, "You are my God. I do not question the calling that you have put on my life." This was the level of faith that he was displaying to not only to his family, but to his friends, to everybody that was around him. But God was going to test Abraham's faith. God's good at doing that. He likes to try his servants. So jumping down to chapter 22, starting in verse 2. I'm going to read through a few scriptures here, so bear with me. Starting in verse 2, it starts out, "And he said, Take now thine son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning," again, without questioning. "And he saddled his mule and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he clave the wood for a burnt offering and rose up and went to the place of which God had told him." So by now, Abraham's grown accustomed to walking by faith, listening to the calling God has put on his life. So in verse 4, he says, "Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the mule, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon his son Isaac. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together." Verse 7, "And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, My father. He said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So both of them went together. And they came to a place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound his son Isaac, and laid him upon the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. See, now God asked Abraham to offer up his son Isaac as an offering. But he went there not hoping that God was going to provide. He went there expecting God was going to provide. He went there willfully knowing that no matter what happens, it is God's will. The calling on his life that is what is going to happen. See, he didn't go hoping that this is what God has called him to be. And he didn't go hoping that his son was going to return, because in verse 5, he says, I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. See, I'm talking about a level of faith tonight that is without questioning. I'm talking about a level of faith tonight that you are going to be able to say, God, no matter what you have in store for me, I'm not going to question what you have for me. See, but what amazes me the most tonight about this story is not Abraham willing to sacrifice his son. It's Isaac willing to obey and trust in his father. Because I know me being a son myself, if my father was to take me to bind me up, to lay me on an altar, I don't know how much I'd trust him, how much faith I would have in him. That'd be hard for me. That'd be a true test right there. But see, Isaac wasn't in the loop of what God had asked of Abraham. Because if he was in the loop, he probably would have done what I probably would have done. He probably would have ran. He probably would have rebelled. He probably would have questioned everything he was doing. But since he was told he was going to worship, he left expecting to come back. See, we need not only have faith, but have faith that is without question. Because Matthew 21:21 states, if you have faith and doubt not, that's saying without question, not only can trees that are in your way become uprooted, but you can cast mountains that are in your life into the sea. This is the kind of faith I'm talking about. Matthew 21:21 is stating, is the definition of faith without question. But imagine if you were in Isaac and in his position. I can imagine the look on his face whenever his father was tying him up after he just told him God will provide a sacrifice. The one being tied up, the one that wasn't told anything, is still trusting in his father. His father trusted in the Lord, so therefore Isaac trusted in the Lord. See, Isaac's actions didn't only say, I trust you. His actions were saying, I'm here to get my victory. I'm here to claim what I have. See, too many of us walk by faith tiptoeing. We tiptoe by faith too much. But God called us to run with faith. Because when you run with faith, battles are won. When you run with faith, strongholds are brought down. When you run with faith, addictions are lost. When you run with faith, the devil runs from you. Because when you're running with faith, the devil is running in faith trying to get away from you. But let me tell you something. When a church runs with faith, all of heaven comes down with that church. Because when the church runs with faith, families are turned over. Schools are saved. Co-workers, businesses are turned around. And the devil can't help but run because he knows exactly what's coming next. That's revival. See, revival happens whenever we act, not when God acts. Because God is waiting on us. He is waiting for us as a church to stop hoping for revival, but simply start having revival. We have more than enough people in here that does not question God that he can use for revival. Because God used one man to save a city, and he questioned God. Jonah, he questioned God from the beginning. That's why he ran. But see, God still used him to save 120,000 people. Because if he can use Jonah, he can use you. He can use you to turn everybody that comes in contact with you, turn their lives around. Every time a person says hello, that's your opportunity to speak faith into their life, to speak the truth, Every time somebody comes in contact with you, that's whenever God is trying to say, hey, this is your chance. This is your opportunity. Are you going to question what I'm trying to get you to do, what I'm trying to get you to see? See, because he's going to, one way or another, find someone that does not question him. He's going to find someone that will answer the call and run with the faith that he has asked us to run with. Because when he does, oh, devil, look out. Because everybody, all of heaven's coming right behind him. Because he's looking for a David. David answered the call. Whenever he went to face Goliath, a giant that was in that time, he said, you come at me with everything you have. You come at me with the sword, come at me with the shield, and with the spear. But I come at you in the name of the Lord of hosts. I come at you with the God of the armies. You know what? That scripture tells me, devil, come at me with all you got. Because every puny thing that you have does not even amount up to an ounce of what my God can give. Because at the end of the day, you answer to a higher authority, and I answer to authority higher than you. I answer to the one that has authority over you and all power over you. So come at me with all that you have, because I'm coming at you in the name of Jesus Christ. There's nothing more powerful than coming to your adversary in the name of Jesus Christ, because no matter what happens, you are guaranteed victory. Because by that name, he's the one that gave you victory, that made it possible for any way. See, but the funny thing about Jonah was that he didn't question all the things that are happening to him, but yet he still questioned the calling on his life. See, he even knew God was going to save that city. He knew it. And all the people of Nineveh, they lowered themselves because they did not question the man of God. But yet the man of God was still questioning himself and why he was there. But the reason that city was saved is because they had faith that was without question. Jonah questioned his calling, but the people of Nineveh did not question what Jonah was sent there for him to do. That is why they were saved. It's because they didn't question if they were going to be saved. They acted as if they were already saved. But yet, after the city was saved, Jonah still questioned God. He went and sat on the edge of the city. And there, when Jonah was questioning God, God did the same thing right back to him. He questioned him. See, God asked Jonah, why are you angry that I saved the city? That is why I called you to preach, so they can have an opportunity to be saved. He had no answer. So God prepared for him a tree to rest under while he was sitting on the edge of the city. He prepared it in a night and took it away in a night. And God asked Jonah again, why are you angry? You did not labor over this tree. You did not make it grow. And you did not save those people. I called you to do one thing, and that was to preach, to call out, cry out to that city. It's my job to save. Don't question my calling on you. Don't question the things that I have in store for you. Just take a step of faith and act as if it's already done. See, God was trying to show Jonah something. He was referencing this tree to the city. As he called Jonah to preach, he also called those people to be saved. But also who he chooses to save, he also chooses to call. See, it's our choice whenever we go into a situation on how are we going to answer that. How are we going to answer our call? See, we got to go into our situations without questioning that God is in control. Just because God told you how something is going to end does not mean you simply ignore the problem. Does not simply mean you walk away as if it's already done. You should go into it with just that much more faith because God has already told you how it's going to end. It doesn't matter what's all in between because you already know the outcome. Everything that the devil throws against you in your situation, God has already got it figured out. See, because whenever you go into a situation questioning without question, the devil is going into the same situation without questioning if you're going to fall. But the question is, who's going to last longer without questioning who's in control? Who's it going to be? You or the devil? Are you running with faith or are you tiptoeing? Depending on how you're answering these questions, will determine your outcome. Because God has already given you promises, but you have to have faith that those promises are going to come true. See, Caleb and Joshua, they understood this. Because they didn't have faith, they didn't have just faith that was expecting. They had faith that was without question. They had faith that was anticipating and couldn't wait for the promise God has already given them, even though everything that they've already went through. See, but the difference was that whenever Moses sent the 12 spies, only 2 came back, saying this is ours for the taking, because they didn't question what God has for them. They didn't question the promise God has already given them. See, with everybody else against them, their friends, their companions, everybody that was inspiring them, lifting them up, they were the ones trying to tell them, hey, we can't do this. This is too big for us. But they knew the God that they served. Joshua and Caleb knew the God that they served, because their God has already brought them out of the wilderness, brought them out of famine, brought them out of everything that was going against them, to keep them from the promise. Because they understood that their God that they served then was still the God yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He never changes. He is always faithful. Because He is the Creator. No matter, in that land, in the promised land, God created the giants, created the people to dwell in that land because that land needed a caretaker. But the caretakers that were there were not the ones that were supposed to have it. That was not their promise. The children of Israel, it was their promise to have that land. But out of all of the children of Israel, the 2 that did not question God are the 2 that received their promise. Because they had faith and doubted not. But yet everybody else questioned. Matthew 21-21 again. Have faith and doubt not. Without question. Because regardless of the acts that God has already done for them, protected them, provided for them, everything, that would have been enough for me to go, okay, God, you're in control. I got faith in you. You got control over my life. I'm here to have the promise you've given me. Because God told them, this is yours. So we need to go into our situations with the mentality that God's already told me it's mine. Because God is on my side. See, Abraham, Joshua, and Caleb, and Isaac, they didn't just run with faith, they soared. See, I'm here to tell someone tonight that the promise that God has given you, it can easily be yours tonight. You just got to simply walk up and say, this is mine. I do not question what you have in store for me. Because stop questioning if God is going to, stop questioning if God is going to give you this promise. And stop acting as if this promise is only a possibility. Because by you acting as if it's only a possibility is what makes it a possibility instead of a promise. See, God is wanting you to plant your roots. He said, have faith the size of a mustard seed. But see, the thing about a mustard seed, after it's planted, it plants its roots. It doesn't question what it does next. It doesn't sit there and say, okay, am I just going to sit here, or am I going to plant my roots, or am I going to do what I'm called to do? As soon as it was planted and it was given the nourishment, it didn't question. It simply started planting itself into the ground. See, God is wanting you to plant your roots so He can fulfill the promise He has given you. The promise He has given for your family, for your friends, for your coworkers, for your schools. He's waiting for you to have that kind of faith so the lives you impact are turned around. If you would, please stand. See, God has placed you on this earth where He wanted you, where He precisely wanted you. He placed you there so when drought came, you had your choice. Your choice to run from Him or run to Him. He placed you there so you had your chance to be influenced or have an influence. Is right now, this moment in your life, is this where you think God has hoped for you to be with your walk with Him? Did He give you your chances to express your faith? Did He give you your chances to express what He has called you to be? And with those chances, did you take them or did you simply just walk on by? Because when you go into those situations with faith that is without question, it gives you the strength to simply look down and see that you're still standing when everything around you is still falling. And you can simply look up and see the one that is giving you the strength. See, when you go through drought, are you going to plant your roots? Are you going to keep producing the fruit God has called you to be, called you to produce, or are you going to simply wither up and fade away? See, because referring back to my original text, Jeremiah 17 and 7 and 8 said, "Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord and whose hope the Lord is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when he cometh, but her leaves shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit." See, the tree did what it always does. It didn't question the calling God has created it to be. It continued to be a tree. Because when He came, it didn't pick up its roots. It didn't pick up its roots and wither away. It didn't pick up its roots and move locations. It simply buried its roots deeper and deeper into the river. Because that is what it does without questioning. Because when drought came, it didn't lose its beauty or forget its purpose. It knew it was supposed to stay green, continue looking beautiful, continue producing fruit, no matter when everything around it was falling, was fading away. It didn't let the environment and the surroundings change its purpose. It continued to be a tree without question. For your faith to get deeper, you must first start at the altar. This is where your roots will go into deeper and deeper into the river. Every man that I talked about tonight, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, not Jacob, David, they all started at the altar. They buried their roots deeper into the river. Because when drought came, they didn't fade away. Because they already had their roots buried farther down than anything the devil can throw at them that would uproot them. See, they had more faith than the devil did. The devil was trying to uproot their trees, trying to put mountains into their lives. But by their faith, they uprooted the trees of the devil, casted mountains into the devil's life. God is waiting to answer some of y'all's promises that He has given y'all. He is just waiting for y'all to simply step out, come down to the altar, and say, "God, I'm yours. I'm not going to question what you have in store for me, all the things that come my way. I'm not going to question the plans you have for me." So these altars are open to anybody that has a few questions on their lives, that they don't know exactly what's happening. But I'm here to tell you, you'll find the answer here in the altar, where you bury your roots deeper. So if you would please, if you if you would please come to the front, and these altars are open to anybody that wants to bury their roots deeper. Because this is where it starts and this is where it'll finish. Your battles are won at the altar.